Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, I'd review this little video that I thought would be very particularly interesting. And this is going to be a little segment, I believe, overall by that of ESPN First Take. Of course, now hosted by that both of Stephen A. Smith and that of Shannon Sharp, where they talk about the Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney fight. And before I end up going over this, of course, for those of you that ended up seeing on my channel earlier, I did end up doing, I believe, a live debate or somewhat of a live, where I talked to a couple of people. Certainly, of course, would enjoy doing that every single once in a while. But by the way, to be honest with you, I cannot find the live, on my channel, at least at the current moment in time. And I did have to delete a couple of videos because of I was not able to at first figure out the way overall to add the co-host overall to the live. So if it was accidentally deleted, I'll end up re-uploading it more than likely. So you guys more than likely can see the whole entire stream. But we'll see overall what ends up happening there. But for those of you, of course, that would also want me to go live again or potentially talk about this situation, about the Ryan Garcia Devin Haney situation, and for those of you that would want to tune in to that of a live video and maybe conversate overall, either debate or at least talk about it potentially, get your thoughts out in the open, you certainly could. I definitely wouldn't mind doing that. It definitely is an enjoyable experience. But anyways, also wanted to say thank you guys to the guys who have, supported the channel and, definitely, love all the love and appreciation that you guys give me. But anyways, heading into this video, this of course is going to be Mr. Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp talking about the fight that happened between that of Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Of course, a lot of people are bringing up this 3-pound weight, situation that Ryan Garcia, of course, was 3 pounds over the weight limit against that of Devin Haney. Some people believe that it didn't just play a little factor. Some people believe that it played a major factor, to the point overall to where Devin Haney was clearly drained. And I believe that Stephen A. Smith is going to say something along these lines. Now, do I personally believe in that excuse, or do I believe in that? Not necessarily. At least not to the point to where that's the reason why Devin Haney lost in that fashion. But we're going to talk about it. Let's see what Stephen A. Smith has to say. And the conversation and the question, of course, is going to be, was Devin Haney that limited within this fight? And is that a big part of the reason overall why he ended up losing this fight, or at least was it the main reason? But let's get into it. Let's see what both Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp have to say.
Saturday night was more of a nightmare than a dream for WBC junior welterweight champion Devin Haney, who suffered 3 knockdowns at the hands of challenger and rival Ryan Garcia, who won a majority decision after a tumultuous lead-up to the fight. Obviously, we had them on the show here. The title is now vacant as Garcia weighed in 3 pounds above the weight limit and became ineligible to win the belt. Stephen A., were you surprised by Garcia's upset over Haney?
I wasn't surprised by the victory. I was surprised by the ass kicking. And we can act like...
Well, just to pause Stephen A. right there really quick, I was a little bit surprised by both. The person that I actually had on a live earlier, I believe that his name was Crawford Gun Knockout Canelo or something like that. He actually stated in my live overall that he picked Ryan Garcia to beat that of Devin Haney, and I was a little bit surprised. Personally, I did not pick Ryan Garcia. I try to make the most logical predictions as possible, and I'm not stating that if you picked Ryan Garcia, that maybe that was not your logical pick, but it just didn't seem logical to me. That being Devin Haney, that he has fought at 140 already at one point in time. He completely dominated that of Regis Prograis. I really didn't know how real of an A-grade fighter Ryan Garcia actually was, because he had only really ever been in the ring with one true great challenge in his career, and that was against Gervonta Tank Davis. And of course, he recently lost that fight. And it did appear that Ryan Garcia was not in the same level of conditioning as he needed to be. He missed the weight by that of 3 pounds. And it was very clear, in my view, that his conditioning did not look as great in this fight as what it did in the prior fights. And that's also another thing, and of course, the Ryan Garcia, him, having a little bit of a mental breakdown. And some people, of course, say, oh, well, he fooled you guys. He wasn't really going through some mental stuff. I can assure you, maybe Ryan Garcia maybe laid it on a bit thick. But Ryan Garcia has been going through some mental stuff ever since that Gervonta Tank Davis knockout loss, no doubt about it. Because a lot of his fans are texting him, and a lot of them are basically commenting on his Instagram and saying, why did you quit in that fight? Why did you embarrass us? Why did you take a knee? You could have went on further. It was pathetic. You're a hype job, all this other stuff. That's what a lot of people do, overall once you disappoint them, or disappoint them. They end up turning on you. So I can assure you that whatever Ryan Garcia says, he was going through it mentally, no doubt about it. But like I said, when it comes down to it, the 143-pound thing to me is only so much of an excuse. Do I believe that it gave Ryan Garcia, maybe an edge in that category a little bit mentally and physically? Yes. But to be honest with you, with the level of conditioning that Ryan Garcia had, at least comparatively to what he had in other fights, it probably, with the 3-pound thing, it probably made it a little bit more on an even playing field because Devin Haney overall was in great ripe conditioning. He's a dude that rehydrates to 165 pounds. And Devin Haney looked perfectly fine in his last fight. He didn't look drained to me. He didn't look like he was running out of energy or anything like that. He didn't look anything like that. Now, of course, some people may argue, well, Devin Haney was probably weaker because of it. Personally, I just don't know if I agree with that. Devin Haney, I thought, looked perfectly fine in his last fight. Doesn't mean that, of course, that every fight is not different. But at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia missed away by 3 pounds. And on top of that, once again, Ryan Garcia, you could tell that his conditioning also was not on the same level as what it needed to be. And the point is that if Devin Haney was supposed to be the fighter that a lot of people overall stated that he was, including myself, if he was really the fighter of what a lot of people really thought that he was still supposed to beat Ryan Garcia at least 8 rounds to 4. Especially with Ryan Garcia being not in the same level of conditioning. We don't really know where he is mentally. And on top of that, he just suffered a knockout loss in, his career last year. He just recently got knocked out. Once again, if this were Canelo, if this were that, of Usyk or, Crawford or someone else like that, they'd be getting absolutely ridiculed, or at least overall from the LDBC and new media especially, like Dante and Aki TV. If this were Canelo, if this were Usyk, if this were Fury, and they lost in this type of fashion, to a fighter under the same circumstances that had just been recently knocked out, never won an official belt in his career, and a guy that was looked at as having a lot of mental issues and probably not on the same level of conditioning, do you know what they'd be saying about those fighters? They'd be stating that they're the most overrated fighters of all time, and this is why overall, once again, we were right all along. They were hype jobs. But then when it comes to Devin Haney, they're making all these excuses. And I'm not stating once again that the 3 pounds was not a slight edge for Ryan Garcia. But when you combine the fact that Ryan Garcia probably was not in as good a conditioning for this fight, combined with the fact that Ryan Garcia was not the fresher fighter, he had just been knocked out last year against Gervonta Tank Davis, or at least stopped. He was a guy overall, once again, to where his career at this moment was in shambles. This was a must win for both of them. But Devin Haney, overall, once again, he was supposed to be the fresher fighter. He was supposed to be the better fighter. And he pretty much got embarrassed.
It wasn't an ass kicking, but it was. I respect the hell out of Devin Haney. I think he's a tremendous boxer. But he was clearly the smaller guy, the weaker guy, the guy that was packing the least amount of a punch. Shannon.
No, he wasn't, Steve. Devin Haney, what he was overall, was a guy that, in my view, kind of somewhat fought the wrong fight. I think that he fought way too much in the mid-range against Ryan Garcia. And unfortunately, Devin Haney did not have enough smarts to change the game plan mid-fight. And I think that even when he was trying to fight a little bit more on the outside, it was still very difficult because Devin Haney had never fought someone that lengthy, that powerful, and that tall before. Basically someone of his own same size and his own same physical dimensions, And sometimes you can tell when a fighter, when they're as dominant as what they are because of those physical dimensions. Devin Haney is usually used to a guy not being willing to catch him because of his speed and also his feet and his length. Devin Haney pretty much is a welterweight type of fighter. So Devin Haney is a dude to where, we can state all this and all about, oh, Ryan was the bigger guy. No, he wasn't. They were pretty much the exact same size. I mean, you can argue overall that Ryan maybe was a tad bit bigger if you want to. That's up to you. But at the end of the day, Devin Haney has been winning fights his whole entire career where he's pretty much been the bigger guy. So I don't want to hear anything about how Ryan really was the bigger guy and, oh, Devin Haney was, he clearly was the weaker fighter. He didn't pack a punch. Devin Haney has just never been a super duper great A-grade fighter. A-grade puncher. Devin Haney has never been an A-grade level puncher. It's always been around probably B level. That's just the way that it is. Ryan Garcia has monstrous power. Like monstrous power. Like if there was any fighter to not fuck up against in the middle of the ring for Devin Haney, it would have been Ryan Garcia. He would have probably had more luck against Gervonta Tank Davis fighting against the style just because he would have had the length and the reach over him. But against Ryan Garcia, it was the worst possible thing that he could have did.
I think the biggest mistake Haney made was not demanding that Ryan Garcia met that 140-pound limit. betting him 500,000 per pound, and ultimately getting $1.5 million from Ryan Garcia, who clearly didn't care about meeting the weight, clearly didn't care about the belt. He just wanted.
And let me tell you what, Devin Haney, I believe himself, has stated overall that he didn't lose because of the weight. At least that's what I heard. So good on Devin Haney overall for at least not making excuses, at least as of yet.
To come into the fight as strong as he could because he remember how he was drained for his fight against Gervonta Davis. Ryan Garcia accomplished his goal. He really beat up Haney, number one. Number two, he gave us reason to believe that if he wasn't drained against Gervonta Davis, he might have been stronger and had a better chance, which has us thinking about the possibility of a...
I didn't mind personally, once again, the weight drain, or the catch weight, for that of Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia only had one fight at 140 anyway, and he had just came from 135. So in my view, it wasn't really that big of a deal. But it's just interesting once again how these same guys like Dante, and Aki TV, they're saying all the stuff about how Ryan Garcia, he cheated, because of the 3 pounds and all this other stuff, but they don't mention anything about Gervonta Tank Davis. They don't mention anything about his catch weight, his weight clause, when Ryan Garcia probably would have been better fighting at 140 pounds. It's interesting how that was never a factor.
Rematch with those two, unless Ryan Garcia stays and fights a guy like Teofimo Lopez or whomever. The point that I'm making is that
that'd be a great fight. And to be honest with you, it's just very interesting how boxing ends up turning out. I remember at one point in time, and I was talking about this in my most recent live stream with somebody, where we were talking about the heavyweight class, but it really happens throughout a lot of weight divisions. You just never know how things are going to end up, because when you, like, for example, when you talk about the heavyweight division, Anthony Joshua, when he came out about 10 years ago, I predicted that he would be the best heavyweight around, and for a little bit he was. Of course, Fury ended up beating Klitschko, and that pretty much ended the Klitschko era. And then Fury, of course, retired for a little bit for whatever reason you want to believe, and Fury ended up doing that. AJ came along. Wilder also came along as well. And then Fury kind of came back a little bit, and then Usyk came back a little bit, and then unexpected things happened. It's kind of like overall with this, Ryan Garcia, just a few years ago when it was looked at as the Four Kings, between Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Gervonta Tank Davis, it was looked at as Ryan Garcia being clearly the weakest out of all those fighters. It was going to be looked at as him easily losing to all those fighters. And of course, he lost to Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm not going to say easily necessarily, but, pretty dominantly somewhat, because I think Gervonta mainly outboxed him throughout the majority of the fight. But at the end of the day, then he comes back and beats that of Devin Haney. So you just never know what's going to happen in boxing.
Haney clearly did not pack the punch. He was the smaller, weaker fighter, and Ryan Garcia took advantage of it. But I understand that Ryan Garcia didn't throw a lot of punches because he wasn't in shape. He was tired for most of the fight, to be quite honest.
Thank you, sir. So let's stop this overall bullshit once again. Let's stop this bullshit about how drained Devin Haney was. Let's stop this bullshit overall about, how Devin Haney, he was cheated because of the 3 pounds. Ryan Garcia, you could clearly tell that he was not in the same level of conditioning as what he needed to be. All right, so let's stop this shit about, Haney was clearly the weaker fighter. Haney was the better conditioned fighter, and he still ended up losing.
Yeah. Shannon, spurts. That in spurts, but when he wanted to fight, he beat up Haney. He beat him up.
He did. Stephen A., you said he had 3 knockdowns. Probably should have had 6. The ref saved him. I was like, ref, do you know this man personally? Are you?
That's right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh my goodness, thank you. That motherfucker was on Devin Haney's payroll. Like, like Jesus Christ.
Family member or something?
Absolutely.
I'm like, damn, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Garcia has something that you can't teach, your speed, and so the punches.
Well, let me actually bring up something, because I believe a woman, I believe that she actually mentioned in one of my comment sections yesterday, and she says, I understand that Devin Haney should have blocked the left hook more, but can someone explain why he didn't end up doing it? Well, the reason why I think that Devin Haney didn't end up doing it is because I believe that he was expecting Ryan Garcia, with a lot of the reverse psychology that he was using, to use a little bit more of the right hand. And I think that Haney, of course, was trying to use his own little reverse psychology as well, and trying to get Ryan Garcia to throw that right cross a little bit more. And, to be fair, Ryan Garcia did use the right cross quite effectively throughout this fight. But because Haney, because he didn't use his feet enough, and on top of that, because he had a tough time getting around Ryan Garcia's reach and his length, every time that Devin Haney would try to throw a jab, because he has that bow and arrow stance and he pulls his right hand away, that left hook was always going to be somewhat of a problem. And, it became a very big problem because Haney is not a great defensive fighter. He just never has been. So sometimes when it looked like Ryan Garcia was about to throw a right cross, he'd put his right hand more in front of his face, to thinking overall that he was going to block the right cross, when really it probably should have been, a little bit more up and he should have used his feet properly overall, to back away, or he maybe could have tried to do a shoulder roll if he wanted to, but Devin Haney just, he pretty much bit on the feints a lot of the times throughout the second half of the fight. That's really what cost him. Ryan Garcia actually used his lead hand a bit better in the second half of the fight. He still didn't use his lead hand to an elite degree. In my view, he still could have used it a lot better because I don't think that he was throwing a lot of lead hands throughout the fight, but he was using it to blind and set up his opponent in Devin Haney. That was something that I think that he learned in his last fight, and that was a very good tool to use. And of course the length and the left hook, it just helped him. Devin Haney, he just didn't have great anticipation of what Ryan Garcia was going to throw. He didn't use his feet enough, and by the time overall that he really tried something new, it was just too little too late. Ryan Garcia just had him way too hurt.
Has more power than you think because you can't see it. And he kept catching him over and over with that left hook. And it's coming. That's the punch that he's really trying to land. And that's the punch that got him in trouble against Tank.
Well, let me tell you what, after rewatching the fight a couple of times, Ryan Garcia was able to land a couple of very good and devastating right hands as well. So I think that Devin Haney started realizing that, you know what, I'm going to have to start blocking that right cross because he realizes that I'm looking for the left hook. And then, of course, Ryan Garcia put his lead hand right in front of his face. And Haney said, oh, okay, so what he's going to try to do is put that in front of my face, blind me, and then throw a right cross. And then I can block that, and then basically I can come over the top of the right or something else like that. Well, he guessed wrong, and he pulled his lead hand overall, or he pulled his right hand away from his face, and that opened a perfect opening towards Ryan Garcia's left hook towards the side of his face. And Ryan Garcia is so quick that basically, if you don't get the hell out of that range, or if you don't already have your hands up, he's going to hit you.
It's because Tank counted him off of it.
Right.
So I say this, Stephen A. Tank was 135, and Garcia's having a hard time making 140. Okay, he goes up to 147. His dad says maybe 154. You really want to see him against Bud Crawford?
They don't
step
want that.
up to that level? Come on now. There's levels to this. And when I said if he got in condition...
Neither Devin Haney nor Ryan Garcia would beat Terrence Bud Crawford. Neither. And I've already talked about this already once again about if I'm Oscar De La Hoya, why the hell do you want to put Ryan Garcia in the ring with someone like a Jaron Boots-Ennis or Terrence Bud Crawford? Those fights make no sense. They make no sense whatsoever.
He can be special. Okay, he's a good fighter. But when I talk special, I'm talking Sugar Ray. I'm talking... Floyd Mayweather. I'm talking Roy Jones. I'm talking the Pacquiaos. I'm talking the Durans, the Haglers. That's what I'm talking about. Special. He can be that if he took it serious. Okay, the weight, because when
Well, when we talk about Ryan Garcia and when we talk about both Devin Haney, I don't know if either of those fighters are ever going to be on that level. When you talk about the Sugar Ray Leonards, when you talk about the Terrence Crawfords, the Floyd Mayweathers, the Manny Pacquiaos, the Canelo Alvarezes, guys like that, whoever else you want to mention, the Roberto Durans, whoever else. But at the end of the day, it's like, those guys are truly, truly legitimately special. Like, those are guys that you can debate that they're the best fighter of their generation. Devin Haney, after this fight, has pretty much proved himself as more than likely that he's not going to be the best fighter of a generation, unless he comes back, beats Ryan Garcia, then Tank Davis, and a couple of other very big names. But at the moment, it just doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but we'll see about that. And Ryan Garcia, he could be one of the best fighters of his generation. That's going to have to be his goals now because, his goal is to be, soon on the top 10 pound per pound list. That's what Ryan Garcia's goal should be. And, some people may ask me, why don't you have Ryan Garcia on the top 10 pound per pound list? He just defeated Devin Haney, right? But he also just recently lost to Gervonta Tank Davis, and on top of that, when it comes down to it, he doesn't have a belt. So, that's probably the reason why right now he wouldn't be within my top 10. But after this win, he could debatably be within my top 20.
No, you're contracted at 140.
That's right.
You come in at 143. All the other stuff was antics. It was to sell the fight,
antics.
the drinking. Maybe it was water. Maybe it was Kool-Aid.
I think it was a little bit of antics, but you know what? I also believe that Ryan Garcia was having a little bit of mental issues as well. I do believe overall that he was. All right, just is what it is.
Tea, apple juice, who cares? The
I think that Ryan Garcia realized that he basically has nothing to lose within this fight, because overall that if he loses this fight, his career is pretty much over. So a lot of people are stating that, oh, Ryan Garcia fooled you. Overall, Ryan Garcia, didn't really have any mental issues. I don't believe that whatsoever. I believe that Ryan Garcia did have some mental issues. I believe that there was a lot of nervousness, and I believe that there was a lot on the line for Ryan Garcia in this fight. And he said, well, I might as well do whatever I want and go all out, in terms of the mental games and also in terms of whatever I want to do for the weight. Because if I lose this fight, my career is basically over anyway. I'm never going to live this one down. So Ryan Garcia, he pretty much did whatever he could to get a possible advantage. But I just don't think the 3 pounds was just that big of an advantage to the point where Haney, who's looked at as a debatable top 5 pound-for-pound fighter on some people's list, and as Dante claimed him to be a quote-unquote Michael Jordan of the sport, up there with some other guys, he should have not lost in that fashion, period.
As a woman,
I mean, he really should have not lost at all, but to get knocked down on 3 separate occasions, I mean, dude, come on.
But all that other stuff.
And really should have been 4.
That's antics. I get it. They're trying to build it up. Stephen A. They're trying to sell a fight.
Right.
But that weight tells me a level of seriousness in which he didn't take it.
You got to be focused. You got to be focused. And in case, and like I said, Devin Haney, listen, those 3 pounds matter. Listen to Sean Porter and Clarissa Shields.
Of course.
Reviewing the fight, they were like, those 3 pounds matter.
Yes.
Those 3 pounds matter. Devin Haney should not have let him get away with that. That was a problem.
And I had one thing, I don't know if I...
They matter to a certain degree. Once again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not somewhat of a factor. But is it, if we're talking about, how much of a factor it is, I'm going to give it about 10, maybe 20%. Really, even if that, maybe about 10 to 15%. Of course, it's a little bit of a factor, but dude, at the end of the day, had this been the Vasily Lomachenko fight, I would have understood it a little bit more, because Devin Haney was really trying to kill himself to make 135. And of course, he's already kind of trying to kill himself at 140, but he just recently moved up there. He can fight there overall, and get away with the fighter, being 3 pounds over him. That's not the reason why Devin Haney lost this fight. It has very little to do with why Devin Haney lost this fight. And once again, when you consider the fact that Ryan Garcia, when you consider the fact overall that he did not have great conditioning, it basically, or pretty much cancels out the argument about Devin Haney being that drain, because he clearly was the more conditioned fighter. Ryan Garcia was not. So if we basically take that out of the equation, at least mainly, then what we would really have to argue is that Ryan Garcia is a weight bully. And we can't argue that, because I don't know what he rehydrates to, but Devin Haney rehydrates damn near to 170 pounds. So to me, in my view, it's just not a viable enough excuse to why he lost the fight in the first place, and especially lost in that fashion, period.
Said this earlier. So Haney's still the title holder.
Well, yeah, but really, he.
No, you got beat. Get that belt up.
You got beat, so it's like they not. I don't.
Well, Devin Haney deserves the title still, because Ryan Garcia didn't make the weight. I don't really have a problem with that, but at the end of the day, once again, Devin Haney, once again, did he lose this fight because of that 3 extra pounds? No.
What they do with it,
still the title holder.
It wasn't a title fight. It wasn't a title fight. It wasn't a title fight because Ryan Garcia wasn't eligible to
Stephen A.
get the fight.
If he came in 3 pounds overweight, when he rehydrated, how much did he actually weigh?
About at least 10 more pounds.
All right, we got to roll. Got to get into commercial
At
break.
least 10 more pounds.
Coming up.
At least 10 more pounds? Well, let me tell you what, Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Did you see Devin Haney in his last fight against that Regis Prograis? The man rehydrated 25 pounds over the weight limit of 140. 25 pounds. Okay? So I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about overall, oh, how much did Ryan Garcia weigh? Dude, Devin Haney is a welterweight. Like the man could easily fight at 147 pounds. I don't want to hear any of this shit about Ryan Garcia being an alleged weight bully. It just makes no sense.
Last in losing at the buzzer.
But anyways, that's pretty much overall once again about it for the video. I might also have to review a little bit of basketball as well, because I love that sport as well, but we'll see where that goes. I can assure you that Shannon Sharp's probably a bit pissed off that his Lakers lost yesterday when they were up by 20. But, it is what it is. But once again, I'm just not falling for this excuse about Devin Haney being that weight drain and all sort of stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just not falling for it. But, you know, it is what it is. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Talk to y'all later.